My name is Anthony Woodard, and this is Introduction to Marriage and Family Therapy. Cultural identity has a profound impact on our sense of well-being, our society, our well-being in reference to our mental health is also our cultural background. Just doesn't refer to our ethnicity, but it can be influenced by our social class, religion, geography, gender, oppression, racism, sexual orientation, even our family dynamics. All of these factors influence people and their social actions in society. And when you understand that, for me, that means that people come in all shapes and sizes, and people in families, I should say, come in all shapes and sizes, and there's no right or wrong per se with families. My normal might not necessarily be somebody else's normal as I perceive what a family is, and we have to understand that each family is influenced by their own culture. And all of those cultures can be different, and even with cultures that are very similar, even if somebody comes from the same culture, they still may have a different history, and so that is going to affect that family. And I think as a family therapist, we need to be sensitive to that. We just can't assume that one size fits all. I got a family that come in and it's African American family. Well, guess what? They're going to be just like the other African American family that came in. That's not necessarily true. That's a good question. I think my personal reasons kind of revolve around a couple of things. Number one, I believe, and this is going to kind of shock you at first when you hear it, but I believe that everybody is prejudiced. Think about that for a second. Everybody is prejudiced, and usually when I say that, it kind of rubs people the wrong way. But if you sit with it for a moment and you think about it, that word prejudice simply means to prejudge, and we all, every one of us, prejudge people. We prejudge people, circumstances, situations. We can't help it. It's just a part of how we're made up. It's just a part of who we are. We prejudge. It's not necessarily considered a negative thing, but it can be. And in most cases, people look at it from a negative perspective. And so when we are prejudging, we have a tendency to prejudge people because of their background, their culture, all of these things that come in, their socioeconomic status. We have a tendency to say, well, this person is going to be like this because they live here, or this person is going to act like this because this is the color of their skin. And we have to become aware of those prejudices. And when we become aware of them, then we're able to self-supervise our own emotions around those things and be more sensitive to the people that we encounter, in particular as a therapist, to those families and those clients. I think one of the worst things that can happen for anybody is to be misunderstood. No one wants to be misunderstood, and I can only imagine how a family would feel to be characterized in a way just because of their culture or their ethnicity or their social status, and it can be completely false. And so that's kind of my personal reason, because I understand that we all have our prejudgments and we come into a room with those prejudgments. The key is to be aware of them so that you can present a non-judgmental presence. Yeah, absolutely. It kind of goes along with what I was just saying. For a therapist to just assume because a family comes from this ethnicity or social background or is in this class that they do not have or are not able to understand or even comprehend what it means to be normal in that therapist's eyes, because they come in with the view of this is what I think normal is. And so can you imagine a therapist who's trying to force a family to be normal based off of what his idea or her idea of normal is? But in actuality, what they're doing is they're asking this family to do something that rubs up against their culture, maybe their religion, maybe their family rules of expression, and so they're not helping this family, but they're actually hindering and hurting this family. That's great. I guess a couple things. I'm going to always try to seek education and knowledge pertaining to that. Any classes that are offered on cultural diversity, things of that nature. I think I'm going to always be open to those and try to get as much knowledge as I can. I would like to, if possible, when I do have an opportunity to counsel with families, try to find out a little bit about their culture and their background before I come into that first session with them. And then of course in the sessions continually to kind of ask questions so that I can get an understanding. I'm not going to always just assume I know everything about every culture, even my own culture. I think the last thing that I'm going to do is use this term I heard about a long time ago. It's called grounded openness. Grounded openness. And really what that means is that I'm going to always remain secure in what I believe. I'm going to always be grounded in my core beliefs, in my culture, and the things that I hold to be true. But I'm going to be open to view other people's views, to try to understand why they think what they think. I think sometimes people feel like in order for me to understand your family, your background, your culture, the way you do things, that somehow it's an infringement on what I believe, that in order for me to understand your beliefs, I have to compromise mine. And that's not the case. You can still have your beliefs, you can still have the things that you hold true to, but understand why people think the way they think, why they do what they do. And I think that's the key for all of us, to be able to understand, to be able to embrace other people, even if you don't believe what they believe. I'm a firm believer that as a therapist, that I can come into a room, my goal is to come into a room and to be able to provide care for an individual. And that care is not based on whether I agree with their lifestyle choices. It's not based on whether I agree with their actions. It's not based on whether I agree with anything that they're doing. It's based on the fact that I'm here to help you. And if you have that, I believe a therapist has to have two things that I don't think you can teach. One is you got to love people. And two, you have to have a heart to want to help someone. You have to have a heart for ministry. I can learn all the books and the studying and learn different techniques and learn different approaches, but you cannot teach love for people. You cannot teach a heart for wanting to help someone. And so for me, I have to make sure that I'm holding on to those things, that I still wake up every morning and realize, okay, I'm going to this office because I love people and I really want to be with people. And then number two, I really want to help people. And if I go in there with that mindset, it's going to be a win-win every time. I would like to think at the end of the day, before I lay my head down, that somebody is better off having encountered me today. That some family, some client may be better off. They may not be perfect. Maybe everything is not resolved, but they are a little bit better today than they was yesterday because I had an opportunity to speak with them and hopefully lead them down a path that would make them healthy.